Welcome to Auto Travel in a Journey. On my show today is my dear colleague and friend Faye Blake. Hey Faye, how are you
Hey
doing?
Alex, really well, thank you. Yeah, lovely to
Yeah,
be here.
great to be here. We're both living on a solid mantra today. I mean, you kind of said that your mantra, like, and I'm grateful that you placed it back into my brain. Tell us what today is about for you today, Faye.
Yeah, I was saying there's lots of movement going on in my life, and so you get these kind of projections of future and feeling into the past, and so letting go of all illusions and yeah, just being in today and the present and surrendering into what is and seeing the beauty in that.
I'm Alexandra Kreis, and you're listening to Outer Travel in a Journey. Journeying now for 30 years into the life and practice of yoga, I have met many who have taken interesting turns, went past extraordinary bumps, and reached unexpected places. People with whom I shared conversations about everyday struggles, intimate realizations, larger questions, ideas, and dreams. So today, I'm passing on the mic to one of them so we could hear and celebrate the wisdom in people's differences and experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. The surrender part is so necessary. And I know, dear listener, that you are not listening to it while we're going through all these planetary constellations, if you're interested or not, it doesn't matter. But maybe it's one of those days when you're listening, and that could be a thing, just kind of when the battling gets too hard, it's good to surrender and just be with what comes in. And this is also something we want to talk about in the show today because Faye is a transformation coach, and was that your first profession, hairdresser, or was that something that came with a lot of other things?
Yeah, there were a few others.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I've always been searching for what I really want, what connects with me, and so there were a few others, but hairdressing has been the longest running theme. But I've dipped in and out of. I needed to let go of it for a while I connected with my true identity, really, who I wanted to be, and not the kind of version of me that was there. But I found it in a really natural way, and that it just makes me smile so much that I've joined the two, like this real natural side of me and that side of me that was there in the hairdressing, because there is beauty in it. There's so much beauty in the connection, and you're almost a coach and a counselor as a hairdresser, so that's that side of it was there.
I want to talk to you about that because I take a long spin to come back to this one, but what I noticed lately is I'm going, for example, through menopause, and even though I'm quite educated on the alternative path and everybody knows what menopause is, but I'm also interested in how to tweak my health or constantly. I noticed how little, this is a subject amongst women our age, and every woman goes through that and nobody talks about it. And why I'm coming back to you and your topic here is exactly the same with hairdressing. I find that hairdressing, you actually brought me to this way of thinking. I hated being at the hairdressers, and there was two things. I felt not seen, and I wanted to be guided a little bit. I didn't understand my hair, and I felt like I wanted to be guided. And often it was just like frumpy woman that would say like, oh, you have a lot of hair, and yeah, you just do it like that. No, you can't do this. And there was never a conversation. And then I lost my curls, and we spoke as we were both on a training and a coaching training, and you kind of just brought this to me, this idea there's so much more you can do for your hair, and you can take an interest in that way. And then I went out and followed your advice, and I sought out a good hairdresser. And as it happened, this hairdresser, he had always like apprentices and people that were really into conversation. And I suddenly felt like I dropped right down into something super important, that I want to sit at the hairdresser because it's about me. It's my own self-care, you know, and it's about somebody who wants to talk about my hair and treat it like a part of me, you know, that needs the love and affection. That's what my hairdresser does a lot, you know. It seems like he just blushes up, you know, like he pushes up my hair and then suddenly, you know, like it feels so much better suddenly, even though he just did that. And so now I talked a lot about me, but I wanted, you know, to become you as a professional, both ends of the spectrum, you know, self-care, awareness, transformation, you know, and from this kind of connection to a part of us that we like to treat, and at the same time, we don't really take care of, you know. So, how do you see that? What do you want to kind of share with us at this point?
Yeah, I see what you're saying when they're like puffing it up. It's almost like asking your hair what it wants to do. And I see this a lot in the body, like the body's always talking, our emotional body, our physical body, it's always talking. How do we gain that conversation with it? And it's by going into this more intuitive way of living. And so with hairdressing, it's the same. It's like, what's going on within there? What does it actually want to do? How does it want to express? And then that connection of, oh, when it's in its free expression, it's us, it's an extension of us, and we're not molding and shaping it to fit in like we do with the rest of our body in life, to be in a box or how it should look. And so it's like a real process of freedom and living in alignment with how it naturally wants to be, in alignment with nature. And actually the salon that I work in now is that we have an apothecary, and we forage and we go into the herbs and all of the natural side of it. And it's like the support of how nature gifts us those literally gifts us that wisdom of how we can look after our hair and how it wants to be and support it. So I see that it's just that word intuitive. What's going on? How's it speaking? And how do we listen and guide it, and be the guide rather than tell it how it should be.
And so coming back to you, as I also see you as a person here, you know, like, I mean, it's what I heard you saying earlier, you did hairdressing and then you went out of it because it didn't feel like you. What didn't feel like you at that point?
It was I'd gone so far away from myself and shaping myself externally of how I should look and should be, that I had this huge disconnect with how I felt inside and who I was. It was like it was screaming at me, and the outside was just fitting in with how I should be. And it was a real high-end salon, and lots of kind of competition. I worked at London Fashion Week. It was like a real external place to be, and fun, and it can be, but it really wore my spirit and my soul down. It just wasn't being seen. Like you said, I wasn't my own free expression or being seen. And that went into me becoming really depressed and addicted to alcohol and food and binging and cigarettes. And I had this whole process that was really highlighting that I was totally living out of alignment with my true self. So that was beautiful. It's been what, 10 years now nearly since I left that salon, or 8 years actually since I left that salon. And through that time studied naturopathic nutrition and Ayurvedic coaching, and going through these processes of understanding my inner world. And then then it began to come back out, that creative side in me began to come back out again. I had to go through that process and kind of let go of it and really cut away from it, because I knew that I could drop into this, almost like being a chameleon. I can put that hat on and be in that place, and I can go into that space, but I didn't want to live in multiple places. I wanted to be really centered and living from within. So it's been a big process, and I've only been in this salon now for 2 years, but it's the people it attracts when you're in a natural hair alchemy herbalist salon are people that are also on their own journeys and their own way of connecting with the planet and connecting with their inner authenticity. And so the conversations that brings up, and the barriers and the masks are already worn down a little bit, or already wanting to go into that place of being seen.
So this is interesting to me, and because the funny bit about it is that I went to a high-end professional hairdresser salon, you know, like that you seemingly quit. And I can see how, you know, because it's like you're on your feet all day and you say like there's competition and it's like about pampering the client, and the client might not have strange opinions that you know, like, I don't know what it is that makes it difficult for you. Maybe you can share a little bit without being, you know, whatever. But it was funny that I met these people that were interested in psychology and in, you know, like I meet the quirkiest people and hairdressers in this salon, and that is so bizarre to me. And because the other end of the truth for me is that when I go into natural herbal treatment for my hair gets wonky, you know, and it kind of like intertwines too much. It looks flat. And so what is it, you know, like, what is it that made you experience that pain in the world exactly? If there's something that you can pinpoint, and why do I see it so differently from the customer perspective, you know, maybe you can reveal a little bit to us what's really going on behind the scenes there.
Yeah, it sounds like, just from what you're saying about the salon you're in, that everyone's in quite an expression of themselves, and like they're very unique in their approach and way of being. And the salon it wasn't like that, and I'd only experienced that one salon, so I'm really just speaking from that place and that company. But it was very kind of almost clone like, and everyone, if you didn't look like that, then you weren't in, and you weren't. So it wasn't that place of this free expression like it sounds like you're in now, the place that you enjoy being in. And I'm not saying that all salons are like that, but just the place that I'm in now, with it being really kind of natural, it's a totally different vibe. So just for instance, when you come in, it's like front room kind of vibes. It's really soft. It's not white and stark and mirrors. In fact, the mirrors, people get a choice if they want to cover the mirror over, if they don't want to sit and look at themselves. So there doesn't have to be mirrors. There's a choice of people saying, I just want to be in silence. Like they'll fill a form in before, I just having a day and I don't want to be in a conversation at the moment. I'm just in a process and I want to be in that. And so it's really meeting someone from how they come in and how they want to engage with you, how much they want to be advised. And we do a whole education around herbal hairdressing. So, and that in itself is an absolute process, kind of like with Ayurveda. When you're first learning how to do bits, you fit in one dosha and you're like, oh, I'm going to follow all the things for this, and it's like, oh no, it's much more about how the elements dance together. And so in hairdressing, it's a real similar thing. You can't then go on to one herb or one flower or one clay and it just work with you forever. It's kind of like the body, where you need a whole range of elements within it to create a balance. So if there's a stickiness or a clumpiness, then you'll use something different to cleanse it, and then you'll use a different something. So it's really learning to listen to what it's bringing up. And same with the digestive system, how that's showing, if it's hot or fiery or slow or sluggish, how is that manifesting in the hair, and what can I do to create more of a balance.
Oh wow, yeah. So I hear you saying that. And so why do what we kind of, you know, buy in professional saloons or salons, why does that work so much for most people, and why is it difficult with the alternatives?
So it's it tends to be a lot of it is patterning. So it's habituated patterning, what we learn how to wash our hair and what to use. And we end up creating like these cycles where we deplete the hair. So we'll overstrip the oils, which then means the hair needs to like produce loads of these oils. So the shampoo works again by removing them and making the hair light and fluffy, but then you need it again really quickly. So you almost get in these vicious cycles with these products. And so they work because they create the problem and then they clear it, and they create it and then they clear it. And that works when you're in that cycle. Absolutely. And when you go on to more natural products that don't have the kind of silicones in or the coatings in, or it's essentially plastic, which creates the hair soft and shiny, in which case it separates and creates more volume and bounce and separation. And it can go towards more of a stickiness, and you have to use different things to cleanse it. So it's habituated process that takes time and energy and awareness to break down. And
Yeah.
a lot of the time people just say, I haven't got the time for this. Like, I've got a family, I've got a job, I've got kids. I want to wash my hair and know that it's going to look great. And that's what the shampoo industry and conditioner industry does. So yeah, it works, but it's also very unnatural, and the chemicals that they use go into our systems because it goes on through our scalp and our skin, which is one of the biggest organs. So yeah, so almost for me it was, when I got into it, it was one of the last places that I looked of changing natural products. And it was, I'd eat really, really healthily and look after myself and work out and meditate and yoga and everything on that level. And then I would be like, why am I still using these things? And it was one of the last things that come in. And I see that a lot where it's that one of the last things that kind of come in for people right now, where I can focus on this. But it takes time. And when something's working, like shampoos and conditioners do, it's kind of like, do I give this my attention, or do I do something else that I know I want to give my awareness?
Yeah, totally well spoken for, because that is also where I looked last. I mean, I am using more alternative shampoos now, and they work, what I'm doing is working. But I noticed that in between, when I go to my hairdresser ever so often, I'm kind of happy that I have a little bit of the chemicals running through, and they kind of bring my hair back to whatever shiny state, as you said, and then I can go back to my alternative things. But we completely, or not we, but I miss to say where you are, because I think people probably already perked their ears about like, oh, she's in that kind of hairdresser. Where is that? Well, Kate, just to add that to the interview at this point. So you were currently in Bristol, England, right? And that's where the salon is, or?
Yeah, it's in Bristol. So it's, I don't actually know which one. There's a salon up north. The salon I'm in is called Tame the Mane, and it's in Bristol. And there's a salon up north called Wilderness, and we're the only two in the UK. And so we have people coming over from like Wales and over from London, and up yesterday I had a lady come up from Devon to have her hair done, and it's just like, wow, there's such a demand for this, there's such a need for it, that to actually embrace the more natural. A lot of it is, like you said, like you lose your curls and then you're like, I know my hair was curly once, and then people just go, oh, it's now just frizzy, or it's not got an even pattern to it, so I don't even kind of bother to allow it to do its thing. And so curly hairdressing is really one of the big things that the salon's known about around natural products and curls, and so really kind of getting to know them. But yeah, it's in Bristol, and she's just about to open a second one also in Bristol. She was looking to branch out a little bit, but wants to keep them fairly close, because we've got a waiting list of like 3 weeks at the moment. Sometimes that goes up towards kind of Christmas and bits, or we have waiting lists. So yeah, it's a really in demand, lovely place to be. And one of the biggest things is that it just feels, you feel seen, because it's that place of like, I can just come as I am, and I'm going to walk away with some wisdom and some knowledge.
And the other thing that I noticed about the services you do, and I know you also have your own business, not to just kind of put you in a hairdressing salon, you do your coaching, as I said, and I think that's the hardest thing to acknowledge for ourselves, isn't it? Like you even said that, you were on search, and I'm on constant search of, like self-improvement, healing, whatever health, whatever it is. And then the hours you put into that, and the understanding you put into that, we often shy away from that commitment and that financial commitment. Which seems a lot at the time, to just go to somebody like you. And I'm sure, for other people that might be a pricey hair salon, and it's the same with the coaching. We're shying away to deal with the cheaper trades of that kind of makes us put a pause apparently on the issue. But I think everything is highlighting to something, and wherever you're kind of trying to grasp it is a good start. So that's what I'm noticing. What have you noticed in these kind of phases of self-commitment towards, self-care, in maybe in lieu of letting go of other expenses that we have?
Yeah, Yeah, it's a big one, because it's like, oh, I haven't got the time for that. Time's the biggest factor for people. Time and money are the biggest, tend to be factors. And I notice a lot that people don't actively try and make a difference unless they're forced into it. So that may be like health issues, or it may be like in a hairdresser, it may be like, oh, my hair started to fall out, or it's starting to really break, and then they'll do something about it. Whereas there've been these signs and symptoms kind of coming into it beforehand. And same with coaching. Like with me, it took that real knock of like, wow, I'm in an absolute hole of depression and addiction, and I'm in this spiral that I know I can feel differently of, but I had to get to the depths, and that's happened a few times over the spiral of growth and self-understanding. But I had to get to a depth and almost like a rock bottom, like people say, and that can show up in both ways to get to it. And so that's been a bit of a process. Like when things happen and I have to take action, that's when I've made that difference to do it. But the signs are there in before that. And I think what we tend to do, or what I see a lot more so, I mean, my course has both men and women on. My coaching Live Intuitively course has both men and women on, and I love that, because it brings such a multifaceted like dynamic to the group. But just to speak here from women, we tend to put a lot of other people that we care about way before ourselves, and from that place then can really burn out, or really go into like depletion and real fatigue, or just total disconnect from ourselves and our path and how we truly want to live. So that also showed up. So it's been spirals of me digging in deeper, like, okay, I need to go within, and I need to actively take care of myself here, and not just expect something to happen or expect a shift to happen. And I see that within both within coaching and mindset, not just mindset, but like deal a lot with emotions and the way that people manage their emotions. And then with hairdressing, it's there as well, and it shows up in the same way, but obviously in a different path with hair. Like like I say about the loss or the breakage and stuff, and it gets to that real rock bottom point before they're like, I'm willing to invest in this, I'm willing to pay someone to do this for me rather than just ignore it.
And you call your program Live Intuitively, and so there is a contradiction in, I know there's a learning process in that, because when we come back to understand that there have been signs and symptoms in our hair, in our body, whatever already, and it's almost like a deeper voice, that is closer to our intuition, let's call that, it's we ignore that a lot. What do you call intuitive living then for yourself, or why is that? It's almost like what I'm trying to say and ask at the same time is that I totally hear what you say. We all have these things where we need to spiral into something that feels a little bit too much out of line with us, out of balance, not ourselves anymore, until we take action. But is your program highlighting that for people, or is it more something that, like, what is it actually that you want to say with that? Why do you chose the name?
The name, so it was really around when I first started working with people around nutrition and coaching. It was looking externally for the answers. And so asking a professional, going to see someone and asking them. And so within the naturopathic nutrition consultations, I would really get to know what's going in, and I can see the map of their bodies and how they've got to this place of how they're spending their energy. And then they're walking away with me saying, take this supplement, try these foods, do that thing. And it becomes, the answers are outside of me. The answers are externally. When I go see this person, I feel better and I feel inspired, and I'm bringing that into my world, and it makes a difference. I need to keep doing that. How can I keep looking outside? And I really quickly, within about 1.5 years, realized that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be the person that fixes someone or goes in to help someone. I want to empower them to see that map themselves. And I really believe Ayurveda does that with the elements and the energies, and how you get to see them within your own body. And that to me is your body's intuitive nature, and your body's wisdom talking. That's your body's voice, like being able to relate to you and talk to you and say, I need help here, I need balance, like how are you going to help me out? So it's really that map of Ayurveda gifts that, and it has for these thousands of years, and then it gets passed on through people as it's awoken. It's not a learning really, it's an awakening within us, that we're all built from nature, and then we get to pass that on and empower the next person to see this map that guides them into their intuitive voice and their intuitive way of their body talking.
And that's a narrative I would have followed for a long time myself, being Ayurvedic consultant myself, and I just kind of dare you to this conversation more or less, because what it misses in itself. I know what you're saying. A lot of us, depending on our culture, for example, the Germans are very DIY. I think in England and in a lot of other countries, we are more used to service and surrender to services, and we like it. And there's areas where we always expect service, for example, in the health region, like the doctors and whatever. And that is still super important, I feel, because at the end of the day, yes, we need to trust ourselves, but secondly, we are no individuals. We are all living on this grid of reflecting each other, supporting each other. So the idea that you're putting out here, like when I listened to you, I suddenly thought about the hairdressing, as we're on that topic, just as an example for you, dear listener. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to, I want to understand my hair, but I also want somebody to kind of love it and kind of reassure me about my hair, and what you didn't want it to do any longer, the natural path, is super important to me, even though I am very much about self-growth and DIY, so I think it's a very, very thin line in kind of finding your intuitive voice and kind of using, for example, Ayurveda or any natural healing path that kind of helps you to self-empower and stay connected with other people that do kind of help you along. So I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it even more so because of that wisdom, like this is how I see it, is that we're all here to hold hands and guide each other through this path of life and walk each other through. There's no point in one person just like shooting off on a rocket and being like, oh yeah, it's great, I've got everything sorted, I'm just going to live over here. Like we're all in this very much a path of walking each other home, however you want to say it, but just to be in a place of sharing wisdom and sharing experience. And so working one-to-one, like I was saying, it felt very much like I was going to be the expert in something and let someone know what they need to do in that moment, and they would come to me and then they would leave. Whereas through the empowerment and through the shared like container of, whether that is, we hold workshops on herbal hairdressing, so it's like speaking from experience and holding workshops where everyone gets to share, or whether that's in the coaching container where I don't work one-to-one, but I work within a group of people and everyone's sharing their wisdom experience in. It's waking these parts of us up within that, and then I'm always going to be like learning more and more and wanting to learn more. So looking out to people, mentors that are like connecting with the land, connecting with their feminine wisdom, connecting with their like forage, all of these things that I'm now kind of like, oh, I'm intrigued to learn from someone who's more of a professional in that with me, so that I can then pass that along. So I still see it as this walking together in doing that. I don't kind of feel personally like I want to become an expert in one area. I feel like I want to awaken lots within me, of places within me and these parts within me, and then be able to share from all of those places. Not sure if that kind of
it does enter it. And what I think we're looking at in a very vague way is to find a degree of self-empowerment, while not feeling like, because you cannot solve everything by yourself, this doesn't mean you're not self-empowered. That there is there's a mixed message in that. That's what I was trying to highlight here in this interview, you know, like, and then when you know everything about Ayurveda, you're going to be, even my Ayurvedic doctor went to an Ayurvedic doctor. He went even to a doctor, you know, like who could, what you call it, working with feet podiatrists or, you know, and what is that?
Podiatry.
Yeah. You know, and so it depends on what kind of personality you are. You know, I've been always the one that wanted to learn and have, you know, the tools and the keys and essentially kind of be able to do everything and trust in the systems. But there is also a foolishness in that. That's what I'm trying to highlight, just from, not because you said it, but because in this conversation, I noticed that particular, because you mentioned intuition. It's a foolishness in that, because it makes you sometimes too self-reliant, you know, and that's also paired with the culture I grew up in, which I had to exchange for more service culture in order for me to understand also what does it mean to receive, you know.
Okay. No, I get that from that angle. I didn't see it from that angle. For me, what that then brings up is that the intuitive part is also a self-trust, and so still trusting what comes within and being able to speak from that place and not just looking externally for answers. And so if I'm going to nutshell it, that's what it is. It's this, if you want to call it empowerment, I've used that quite a lot, but it's a way of trusting self, trusting my own voice and knowing that it's valid. So I would pedestal all of like the people that I would learn from and really compare, and I'm less than, and going into that, and actually to be able to walk alongside everyone and share that meant that I also trust that I'm worthy. So it's a place of worthiness and being good enough, that I've received so much from going within and learning to listen to the feedback my body's giving me.
Cool.
That was a great way of being able to vocalize something I feel but don't necessarily say. Thanks.
And because the funny thing is you are in a service industry. I mean, we heard you speaking about, you know, the hairdresser you work for, and at the same time having your own business, which is trying to do also the other thing. And I heard this a lot amongst hairdressers, because in the coaching world, when you kind of, you know, go deeper and deeper into how you coach people and how you can be seen, you know, I hear a lot of stories from different entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and I hear that more and more, that people who work in hairdressing, they have a key element of, for some of them, is that connection to people and the gift to listen to people and reflect with them and make them feel good about themselves. And I feel it's so undervalued and so wrongly kind of portrayed. I almost wish, you know, Faye, that you would kind of be one of them that kind of breaks through this concept of what a hairdresser is, you know, and brings more to it. Because why, you know, like, I mean, the shit that you hear as a hairdresser, you know, what people kind of, you know, feel is going on in their world, and where they've been betrayed, or where they're, whatever it is, you know, like it is the therapy stuff at times, you know,
Totally is.
And it takes keen and eager listening, and also training to respond appropriately, you know, to maybe help somebody forward. And this is how I see my hairdresser. This is how I saw my first guitar teacher, you know, like in my 30s, when or not my first, but, you know, like when I came back to playing guitar. He was somebody who helped me to arrive back home in myself, just by playing guitar with me and being like there for me energetically, and making me feel good about myself, because I had moved countries and I had no friends, literally, you know. And it's the same with the hairdressers. And when we start looking at these services more from that aspect, that we're actually looking for the little in-betweens, you know, to feel really well in using that service, you know, that would be something that I'd like to see growing in a different direction, you know, away from just a, you know, I cut your hair kind of thing.
Absolutely. I really see that. I see that a lot in people. And you are really that mirror that you come to in the hairdressers. The hairdresser is that. It's that they're also mirroring and reflecting back of what is going on within you, within your field at the time, because you get to see. And just to say this, one of the reasons I had to leave it and come back in is because I wasn't fully in my own field. I was very much swayed by what was going on in the environment and people, and so all of the embodiment practices that I managed to practice and bring into my toolkit within that have given me this awareness of my own field. So then I get to see what people were bringing more so on that deeper level. It was needed, that break, because of that. And I see that as a real kind of gift now, that when someone comes in, they do feel comfortable and seen and able to embrace more of their truer kind of, I would say persona, that brings another mask on, but their true self through allowing their hair to do what it wants to do.
Thank you for sharing so much about yourself, Faye, and a little bit about the hair. I'm not sure. Maybe you listener, you can comment if you need more answers to hair questions. I mean, we didn't want to do a workshop here, but I think we kind of talked about it, like anything of your skin, as you mentioned earlier, as a larger extension of yourself, and how you treat, your body and your life if you're stressed, and or eating too much bad foods for your body type, whatever, and your hair can suffer from that as well. And some people suffer from really bad things, where, as you said, like losing their hair. But if you, I think my key idea was to bring you on, Faye, not just so much to give tips, but to see it as a larger extension of yourself, right? I think we covered that a little bit here.
Yeah.
If there's anything that you'd like to, give to our listener, like an advice or a gem or whatever, then we can maybe use that as a final sort of offering. And if you want to get in touch with Faye, all the details will be in the show notes, so you can always kind of send her a message, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, two things that came through there. I've hold workshops with Lara, who's the owner, who's got such amazing wisdom, and I've got a recording of one that we did recently, so if anyone wants the recording to look into actual tips on hair and scalp care and using more natural products and what products actually do, then I know she will be, and I'm super happy to send that out to people. And then secondly, just really dropping in to recognize that whatever we're using on our hair is absorbed into our system. So, and there can be such a disconnect between what we're bringing in physically into our mouths and into our being and into our awareness, and then just going and using kind of anything which still comes in. And so just beginning to highlight, maybe through that I could give myself some more nourishment, some more self-care, and that's ultimately what we can do to trust ourselves and to drop into a more embodied way of living.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. And see you in the next show, dear listener. Have a wonderful day.